Richard Cole, a man whose net worth rivaled the GDP of a small nation, was dying on the asphalt of the Third Mainland Bridge. It was an impossible situation. A man who flew private jets and whose Lekki mansion was a fortress of marble and glass was now choking on the exhaust fumes of Danfo buses. His driver had slumped over the wheel from the same poison. The black G-Wagon now angled uselessly against the concrete barrier, its hazard lights flashing. It was 11:04 p.m. Cars just honked. They swerved around the luxury vehicle, assuming it was a big man's inconvenience, not a rich man's final breath. The lights of Lagos shimmered on the black lagoon below, indifferent. Richard's gold watch gleamed under the orange street lights. His custom-made suit was soaked in his own sweat. He clawed at his throat, his vision tunneling. The last sound he heard before blacking out was the rumble of trucks and the distant, desperate cry of a hawker. That hawker was Miriam. She slept under the Onike flyover. Her entire life contained in a rusted metal bowl and a one Ghana must go bag. She saw the convoy G-Wagon stop. She saw the driver slump. She saw the passenger door open and a man fall out, his body beginning to convulse violently. Nobody stopped, but Miriam ran. She didn't see a billionaire. She saw a human being dying. She didn't hesitate. She tore a long strip from her only wrapper, the one she used as a blanket, and jammed it between his teeth to stop him from swallowing his tongue. His body jerked. She grabbed her own last sachet of water, the one she'd saved for the morning, tore it open with her teeth and forced it past his blue-tinged lips, washing away the foam. She stayed with him, screaming at passing cars, "Help! This man is dying! Help!" until one finally stopped. Richard Cole woke up 2 days later in the pristine white room of a VI hospital. His first word was hair. His fiancée, Jessica, looked up from scrolling on her phone, annoyed. She stood by the window in her designer dress, looking flawless. Hair? Richard, darling, what are you talking about? The doctors are here. The girl, Richard whispered, his throat raw. The girl with the torn wrapper. Find her. Jessica scoffed, a short, sharp sound. Find who? Some gutter trash from the bridge. Richard, you're delirious. Let the doctors work. But Richard was insistent. Find her. Miriam stood in the staff kitchen of Richard's Lekki mansion. It was her first morning. The room was bigger than any house she had ever been in. Gleaming marble floors, steel appliances that hummed, and an AC unit just for the kitchen, blasting cold air. A small red CCTV camera light blinked from the ceiling corner. The head maid, a stern woman called Auntie Rose, was listing rules. 2 other maids, BC and Funke, were pretending to chop vegetables, their side eyes watching her every move. Richard walked in, smiling, fully recovered. "Miriam, welcome," he said. "This is the least I could do." He turned as Jessica swept in, her face twisted with disgust. She saw Richard's grateful smile. She saw this thing standing in her clean kitchen. Jessica stopped, waving her hand in front of her nose. "Richard, what is that smell?" Miriam froze. "Is it hair?" Jessica asked, pointing. "She smells like the lagoon, like rotten fish and gutter water." "Jessica, be nice," Richard said, his smile fading. "She just got here." "I don't care," Jessica snapped, her voice cutting through the kitchen. "Rose, take her back to the big queue. Make her scrub herself again. I don't want her bringing river blindness or cholera into my home. And check her hair for lice before she touches anything." "Yes, ma," Rose said, looking at the floor. "And you," Jessica said, pointing her phone at Miriam like a weapon. "Don't you dare look at me. You're from the village, aren't you? This isn't your chief's mud hut. This is a clean house. Act like it." Miriam's face burned. Her chest tightened until she could barely breathe. She swallowed the words in her throat. They tasted like bile. She stared at her own worn-out slippers, a crack running through the right one. She just wanted to disappear. "God, just let me survive this first day." She wouldn't cry. Not here. BC and Funke were staring very hard at their chopping boards, their knives suddenly silent. Auntie Rose looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Her job was on the line. As Miriam turned to leave, Funke's phone buzzed on the counter. A message preview lit up the screen. It was from the estate gateman in the Lekki resident staff WhatsApp group. Madam don't start with the new girl oh. Welcome to hell. Ha ha ha. Miriam walked out of the main house, the cold AC air giving way to the humid Lagos heat. She stumbled back to the tiny one-room BQ she now shared with BC. Sweat was already soaking the back of her new stiff uniform, not from heat, but from shame. The distant hum of the main house's generator seemed to mock her. Her new life had begun, and she was already less than human. 2 weeks later, Miriam was learning the routine. Richard was kind but distant, already forgetting her. Jessica, however, watched her always. It was an evening party. The main living room, with its floor-to-ceiling windows and white marble floor, was filled with Richard's business partners, oil-baroned and their wives, dressed in glittering gold and smelling of money. About 10 guests. The room was loud with laughter. Miriam was serving champagne from a heavy silver tray, her first time holding real crystal glasses. The red lights of 2 security cameras blinked from the corners. Her hand was shaking. She was terrified of dropping the tray. As she offered a glass to a loud, laughing woman, a single drop of champagne spilled from the glass. It landed on the pristine, white marble floor. It was tiny, insignificant, but Jessica saw it. The room quieted. "Are you blind?" Jessica shouted, her voice echoing. The guests turned to look. "I'm sorry, ma. It was just a drop." "A drop?" Jessica stood up, gliding over. She snatched the tray from Miriam's trembling hands. "You clumsy village animal. Do you know how much this floor costs? It's Italian marble, not the dirt floor you are used to." "I'll get a mop, ma, right now." "No." Jessica's voice was low and cruel. "Get on your knees. Clean it." Miriam froze. "Ma? Clean it, now." With that, Jessica pointed to the simple white cotton apron Miriam was wearing. "Clean it." The guests were silent. The men looked uncomfortable. Their wives studied their own manicures. Richard, her savior, just sighed from across the room. "Jessica, darling, do make a scene." "She made the scene," she shrieked. Miriam's throat closed up. Tears burned behind her eyes. But she refused to let them fall. She would not give Jessica the satisfaction. Her body shaking, she knelt. Her knees hit the cold, hard marble. In front of all these rich and silent people, she used her apron to wipe up a single sticky drop of champagne. One of the wives whispered to her husband, "This is too much now." The husband just shook his head, a silent, "Stay out of it." Auntie Rose, who was waiting by the kitchen door, saw the whole thing, her hand over her mouth in horror, before she stepped back into the shadows. One of the guests, a younger man, had his phone angled slightly down. He wasn't recording, but he was typing. A message went to his own WhatsApp group. "You guys won't believe this Lekki madam drama I'm seeing. Forcing the maid to clean the floor with her clothes. Savage." Miriam stood up, her face blank. Jessica sneered. "Now get out of my sight. Go back to the kitchen. You're not fit to be in here." Miriam walked away on shaky legs, her apron damp with champagne and shame. As she passed, she heard Jessica laugh and say, "You just can't get good help these days. They're all from the gutter." It was a Tuesday night, just over a month later. Jessica was at her spa for a late-night session. Richard was in his home office, a vast loom of dark wood and glass. Miriam was dusting the bookcases, the last chore of the night. She was alone with him. The house was silent except for the generator's hum. Richard had, she noticed, turned off the small CCTV camera on his desk earlier that evening. He called her name. "Miriam!" She turned. "Sir!" He was smiling. But it wasn't his usual smile. It was heavy. He was holding a glass of whiskey. "I never properly thanked you," he said, walking closer. "Jessica, she's just high-strung. She doesn't understand real people." "It's okay, sir." Miriam tried to step back, but she was cornered between the desk and the wall. He reached out and touched her hand. She flinched. "You have good hands," he said, his voice low. "Strong. You saved me."
He stroked the back of her palm. "Thank you, sir," she whispered, pulling her hand away slowly. I have to go and wash the plates." "Miriam," he said, his voice stopping her. "A girl like you deserve better than the BQ. You just have to be grateful." The meaning was clear. He didn't wait for an answer. In the small, dark, quiet office, he forced himself on her. He took the last thing she had left. It was not violent, but it was not optional. It was a transaction she had not agreed to.
She didn't scream. She couldn't. She just went numb. The room was cold from the AC. She stared at a framed photo of him and Jessica on the desk. The man she saved, the man she prayed for. He had become the monster Jessica accused her of being. None of the other staff knew. It was just her word against his. The camera was off. This was the ultimate isolation. He was her savior and her abuser. Who could she tell? He finished, straightened his shirt, and sat at his desk. "You can go," he said, not looking at her. He didn't even say her name. Miriam stumbled back to the BQ, her legs shaking. She locked the door. She scrubbed her skin raw in the small, cracked shower, but she couldn't wash the shame off. She threw up. Her hope in him, the small bit she had left, was dead. 2 weeks later, Miriam was in a fog. She was just a ghost cleaning the house. She was sent to the local market on the Lekki-Epe Expressway to buy fresh peppers for a stew. She had to take a keke back. She arrived at the massive iron-wrought gates of the estate at 1 p.m. The sun was brutal. She was carrying 2 heavy bags. Musa and Emeka, the estate security guards, were at their posts. Another resident's driver was washing his car nearby, and a woman was jogging past with earbuds in. As she approached the gate, Jessica's white G-Wagon was gliding in. Jessica saw her. She stopped the car, blocking the pedestrian entrance. She looked at Miriam, sweaty and dirty from the market, and her lip curled. Jessica rolled down her tinted window. The blast of cold air from her car hit Miriam's sweaty face. "Musa! Emeka!" she yelled at the security guards. The guards ran over, saluting. "Yes, madam." "Why are you letting this thing walk in? Look at her. She's covered in market dirt. She will bring cholera into the estate. Look at her slippers. Filthy." "Ma, please, I just want to—" "Shut up. Do you know who I am? One call and this gate will never open for you again. Musa, you hear me? Let her wait outside for 1 hour. Let the sun dry the germs off her." She rolled up the window and drove in. Miriam stood there, her arms aching from the heavy bags. 1 hour. In this sun. God, what did I do? She swallowed her words. Arguing would only make it 2 hours. She stepped back from the gate, her head pounding from the heat, and stood by the gutter. Musa and Emeka looked at her with pity. "Auntie, sorry," Musa whispered. "Madam's order. We no fit do anything. Our job dey on the line." The jogging woman glanced at her, then jogged past, tapping her earbuds. The estate WhatsApp group lit up. The other driver texted, "You won't believe what Jessica Cole is doing now, making her maid stand in the sun at the gate. This woman is a witch." She waited for 63 minutes. When she was finally allowed in, she was dizzy from the heat. The peppers were wilted. She stumbled back to the house, sweat soaking her uniform. Auntie Rose saw the vegetables. "Ah, these ones have spoilt. Madam will not like this." Miriam just nodded, another piece of her dignity gone. Her phone battery was on 2%, and she had no one to call anyway. A month after the assault, Miriam had been sick every morning for a week. She was terrified. She used the small 2,000 naira Auntie Rose had dashed her to buy 2 test strips from a chemist down the road. It was 6 a.m. She was in the BQ bathroom, a tiny, damp room shared by 4 staff. The plumbing was bad and the single bulb flickered. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the test. She took it. She waited 3 minutes. 2 pink lines. They were clear, unmistakable. This was not joy, it was terror. She was pregnant with his child, the child of her abuser. She slid down the wall, sitting on the cold, dirty cement floor. She was trapped. She had no money, no family. This was a life sentence.
Her body had betrayed her. He hadn't just violated her, she had marked her. He had put a living, growing problem inside her that she couldn't hide. She looked at the test strip and all she could see was a cage. A baby, here, in this life. Jessica will kill her. Richard will throw her out. Her mind was racing. What do I do? Who do I tell? She couldn't tell Jessica. She had to tell him. Maybe he would have pity. Maybe the baby would make him see her as human. A tiny, stupid spark of hope. The same hope that kept her alive under the bridge flickered again. Bissy, the younger maid, knocked hard on the door. Miriam, you there inside? Why you lock the door? Auntie Rose, they call you. Miriam quickly hid the test strip in her pocket. She opened the door. Bissy saw her pale, tear-streaked face. Miriam, you did sick? Your face white, oh, you cry? Bissy was sympathetic, her eyes soft, but she couldn't help. Oh yeah, come quick, madam is awake. Miriam splashed water on her face. She walked out, the plastic test strip digging into her hip. She had a terrible secret. She had to find Richard. The weight of it made her stumble.
The morning sickness was already rising in her throat, tasting like fear. Her hope was dying, but this new life forced her to try one last time. Miriam was desperate. She'd been trying to catch Richard alone for 3 days, but he was avoiding her. Finally, she saw him walking near the pool, alone, talking on his phone. It was 10 a.m. The gardener was cutting hedges 50 feet away, and Jessica was watching from the upstairs bedroom window. Miriam didn't see Jessica, but Jessica saw everything. She saw the maid, who she suspected was pregnant, approaching her fiancé. Miriam ran to him, bowing. Sir, please, I have to talk to you. It's urgent. He finished his call, annoyed. Miriam, what is it? I'm busy. She whispered, her voice shaking. Sir, I'm pregnant, sir. With your child. His face went white, then cold. What? I'm pregnant, sir. With your child. He looked around wildly. He saw the gardener. He knew Jessica was in the house. He forced his smile, a grotesque mask of panic. Pregnant? Oh dear. He was performing. We must take care of this. He put his arm around her, a gesture that made her skin crawl. Get in the house. No, wait. I'll drive you myself to my private hospital. We'll get you the best care. We'll sort this out. Miriam was flooded with relief. He was helping. He said, we. He's taking me to a hospital. He'll take care of us. She started to cry, this time from gratitude. She didn't realize he was pulling her toward the rarely used black Mercedes, not his usual G-Wagon. She didn't realize this was an expulsion. The gardener watched, confused. Why was Oga holding the maid like that? Up in the window, Jessica watched. Her face was stone. She saw Miriam's tears of relief. She saw Richard's fixed smile. She knew. She sent a text to her prayer warrior. The witch has planted her evil seed. We must act. Then she called the head gate man, Musa. Richard is leaving. Let me know when he is back. Miriam got in the Mercedes. The leather was cold. She felt safe. For the first time in months, the car pulled out of the massive gates. She didn't see Jessica watching her, a look of pure calculated hatred on her face. She thought she was being rescued. She had no idea she was driving to her own destruction. That very afternoon, Richard had postponed the hospital trip. My doctor is in surgery, he lied. Tonight, I'll take you tonight. Jessica acted fast. She called an emergency prayer meeting for the house. It was 4 p.m. All staff, Rose, Bissy, Funke, the 2 drivers, Musa the gateman, were forced to attend. Jessica's personal prayer warrior, a loud woman in white garments, was there, her eyes sharp and accusing. Jessica, who saw Miriam get in the car, knew she was pregnant. This was her revenge. She had told the prayer warrior that there was a Jezebel in the house who had planted a cursed seed. The prayer warrior's eyes landed on Miriam, who was 7 weeks pregnant and trying to hide her nausea. The prayer warrior screamed, pointing directly at Miriam. There, the darkness. I see a serpent. I see a python from the waters.
She grabbed Miriam's head, her fingers digging into her scalp. Confess, you witch! You came here with a monitoring spirit. You are trying to steal the yoga. You are carrying a child of darkness. Jessica shouted, Amen! Cast it out, Mama! The woman shoved Miriam to her knees. Who sent you? Confess your witchcraft. She slapped Miriam's belly. This seed is not of God. We cast it out. No, Miriam screamed. Please, it's... She's lying, Jessica shouted to the staff. She's a thief and a witch. Look at her. Miriam was sobbing, terrified, her body shaking. She was crying in public for the first time. She held her stomach, trying to protect her baby. She looked at Auntie Rose, pleading, please help me. She was trapped by a circle of screaming, chanting people. The other staff were terrified. They all shouted, Amen, and fire, louder, afraid the accusation would land on them next. Bisi was crying silently in the back. Auntie Rose, the sympathetic one, just closed her eyes, praying, God have mercy, but did nothing to stop it. Musa the gateman looked sick. This was not prayer, it was an attack. Miriam was prayed over for 30 minutes until she was hoarse and collapsed. Jessica watched, smiling. Rose, she can't sleep in the BQ anymore. She's an evil influence. Let her sleep in the generator shed until Oga decides what to do with her. Miriam was dragged, weeping, to a tiny hot shed smelling of diesel. This was maximum public shaming.
That night, 10 p.m., Miriam was in the generator shed, starving. She hadn't eaten all day. The prayer meeting, the nausea, she was weak. She heard Richard and Jessica returned from a dinner, laughing. She waited 30 minutes, then sneaked into the main house kitchen, desperate for scraps. The house was quiet. She opened the fridge. A container of jollof rice was there. Her hand was shaking as she reached for it. The lights flicked on. Jessica was standing there, a silk robe on, a cruel smirk on her face. She had been waiting. Richard was behind her, looking uncomfortable. Thief! Jessica screamed. First my husband, now my food. You cursed witch. Richard, trapped, said nothing. Are you not satisfied with the evil you are carrying? You want to poison us too? She grabbed the container and in one violent motion, threw it on the marble floor. Rice scattered everywhere. Eat, Jessica screamed. If you are a dog, eat from the floor. That's where you belong. She kicked the rice, scattering it further. Eat it, witch. Miriam was so hungry, her stomach was cramping. She looked at the rice on the floor. She looked at Richard, her eyes pleading. Please, say something. He turned his head. He looked away, ashamed, but utterly silent. That broke her. His silence. He would let this happen. He would let her starve. He would let Jessica call his own child evil. She turned and ran out, empty-handed, her stomach burning with hunger and acid. She didn't even have the strength to cry. Auntie Rose and Bisi, awakened by the shouting, watched from the dark hallway. They saw the rice on the floor. They saw Miriam's face. They saw Richard's silence. They knew the truth. Bisi whispered, "This is not right. This is not right, Rose." Auntie Rose just pulled her back into the shadows, her face grim. "There is nothing we can do. Be quiet or you'll be next." Miriam ran back to the generator shed, her stomach empty, her last hope in Richard gone. He would let Jessica kill her. She cried herself to sleep, the sound of the generator drowning her sobs. She knew she couldn't stay. She had to believe his lie about the hospital. It was her only way out. The next morning, 5 a.m., it was still dark. Miriam was weak, curled on a mat in the generator shed. The door creaked open. It was Richard. He was dressed for the day. He looked guilty. "Miriam," he whispered. She flinched, scrambling back. "Sir." "He's got your things. We're going now. Before she wakes up, the doctor is waiting." He was lying. He was faking it all. The panic, the concern. "You can't stay here. She'll hurt you. She'll hurt the baby." He said it, the word baby. It was the hook. "I'll take you to a private hospital in Surulere. My doctor, He will take care of you, keep you safe until the baby comes. He was offering her the one thing she wanted, safety for her child. He was giving her hope, knowing he was about to destroy it. She believed him. She had to. It was her only choice. Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir. She grabbed her only possession, a small nylon bag with her other wrapper and her cracked phone. She followed him to the black Mercedes. He did it in secret this time. He snuck her out. But as he drove to the gate, Musa the gateman was there. Richard rolled down the window. Musa, I'm taking her to our village. She's finished. He palmed him 5,000 naira. Musa watched them drive off. He felt relieved for her. He thought she was finally free. He posted in the staff group, Oga has taken the new girl. She's gone. Thank God for her. Miriam got in the car. She felt the cold AC. She felt safe. She thought she was being rescued. He even stopped at a buka in Surulere and bought her amala and stew. You must eat for the baby, oh, he said, smiling. He made her trust him completely. She had no idea she was driving to her own destruction. It was 10 p.m. He had driven her around for hours. The doctor is in surgery, he kept saying. Let's just wait. He drove back towards the island. He was on Echo Bridge. The traffic was light. The bridge was dark and mostly empty. The lights of the city glittering far away. He pulled the car over into the dark, empty stretch near the end. Sir, why are we stopping? Is this the hospital? He turned to her. His face was a mask of pure, cold fury. There is no hospital. What? Miriam's blood ran cold. Get out, he said. Sir, please, it's dark. I'm pregnant. I said, get out. He unbuckled his seatbelt, reached across her and threw her door open. The night air rushed in, smelling of the lagoon.
No, sir. Please, the baby. She was crying, begging, holding on to the seat. He didn't hesitate. He pushed her. Miriam tumbled out of the car, scraping her hands and face on the dirty asphalt. She landed hard, a sharp, tearing pain shooting through her stomach. She looked up, bleeding. Sir, please, she begged, trying to crawl. The baby. He didn't even look back. The Mercedes-Benz sped off, its red tail light disappearing into the Lagos night. She was alone, bleeding, on a dark bridge, the ultimate betrayal. She had saved his life on one bridge, and he was ending hers on another. She felt a sharp, sickening cramp and a warm gush of blood. No! God, no! None of the passing cars stopped, just the dark water of the lagoon below, just the rumble of a truck, distant. She was completely, utterly alone. She laid her hand on her stomach. Father Lord, she wept, her voice raw. Jehovah, you see me. You saw what he did. I saved his life and he did this. She was prostrate on the dirty road. God, I have nothing. My phone is dead. My account is 0. They call me a witch. He left me to die. Her body trembled. If you don't help me, my baby and I will die here. God, I need help. Just one door. Just one chance. I'm leaving it in your hands. I can't fight anymore. Please, save my baby. Her cracked phone, which had fallen from her pocket, lay useless beside her, its screen black. She fainted, her body giving up from the pain and blood loss. The Lagos night was silent around her. When Miriam opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was a white peeling ceiling fan. The smell wasn't diesel or jasmine, it was Dettol. She was in a small, clean room. An IV was in her arm. She's awake. A woman in a simple Ankara dress stood up from a chair in the corner. She had kind, tired eyes and hair braided with streaks of gray. Where am I? Miriam whispered, her throat dry. You are in a small clinic in Surulere, the woman said, her voice calm. My night driver found you on Echo Bridge around midnight. He was coming back from a late pickup. You were in a very, very bad way.
Miriam's hand flew to her stomach. Her eyes filled with terror. My baby! The woman's face softened with a mix of sadness and wonder. She took Miriam's hand. My dear, you were pregnant. The fall, the blood loss, it was very bad. Miriam's sob tore from her throat. No! No! But the baby, the woman continued quickly. The baby, he is a fighter. He is in an incubator. He is alive. Miriam froze. Alive? He is tiny. He is premature, but he is alive. You both are. Miriam wept, but this time it was a different kind of tear. It was a raw, painful, impossible hope. Why? Why did you help me? I have no money. I'm Dr. Fumilayo, the woman said, her voice growing quiet. My night driver saw the car that pushed you. He's an ex-driver for a big man. He knows cars. He said it was a private Mercedes-Benz, S-Class. He said it was Richard Cole's. Miriam's blood ran cold. I know that name, Dr. Fumilayo said, her eyes hardening. I know it very well. She sat on the bed. 20 years ago, Richard Cole was my husband's business partner. He was charming. He was like a brother. And then he betrayed him, ruined him, forged documents, stole everything, took our home in Ikoyi. My husband died of a heart attack, penniless. I lost everything. I was a doctor, but I had to start over from nothing. I built this clinic with my own hands to help the people he and men like him break. She paused, her voice thick with old pain. We had a daughter, Taiwo. She was 17. After we lost everything, she couldn't take it. The shame, the poverty. She took her own life. Dr. Fumilayo's eyes glistened. I found her in the bathroom of our one room in Ajegule. I was too late. Miriam's heart broke for this woman.
When my driver brought you in, Dr. Fumilayo continued, and he said that name, I knew God had sent you. Your prayer. You prayed for one door, didn't you? How? How did you know? Because I prayed the same prayer 20 years ago, the doctor said, tears rolling down her face. And my answer, it looks like it's you. You are not going to be a victim. He took your dignity, but he can't take your mind. You will heal, you will raise your son, and you will go to school. School? Miriam was dazed. You saved that man's life with nothing but your hands and a wrapper. You have the hands of a healer. I will pay for everything. You will go back to school. You will get your JAMB. You will go to medical school. Me? A doctor? Miriam whispered. Ma, that's 10 years. Then it will be 10 years, Dr. Fumilayo declared, her eyes fierce. 10 years of work, 10 years of healing, 10 years of raising your boy. And one day, you will face Richard Cole again, not as a maid he can push from a car, but as an equal or as his superior. I can't. This isn't charity, Dr. Fumilayo said, her voice firm. This is justice. This is God's plan. He didn't save you for nothing. And her voice broke. I couldn't save my Taiwo, but maybe I can save you. Maybe you are the daughter I was supposed to help all along. She handed Miriam a small notebook and a pen. First, you must heal. Your son needs you. We will call him David, because he has fought a giant and won. Miriam looked at this woman, this stranger, this angel, and wept. Thank you, ma. Call me Mama Fumi, the doctor said, smiling through her tears. We are family now. The first year was the hardest. Miriam's body healed slowly. David, tiny and fragile, spent 3 months in the incubator before he was strong enough to come home. Home was a small room in the back of the clinic that Dr. Fumilayo had converted for them. Miriam would wake at 4 a.m. to David's cries. She would feed him, rock him, pray over him. Then at 6 a.m., she would strap him to her back with a wrapper and begin her chores. She mopped the clinic floors, washed linens, sterilized equipment, all while studying. Dr. Fumilayo had enrolled her in an adult secondary school program. Miriam hadn't been in a classroom since she was 14, when her mother died and she had to drop out to survive. Now at 23, she was sitting in a cramped classroom in Yaba with teenagers who laughed at her for bringing a baby to school. Auntie,
You know go born finish, one boy mocked. Miriam just opened her textbook and ignored him. She had survived worse. At night, after David finally slept, she would study by candlelight when NEPA took the light. Her eyes burned, her head pounded. She would fall asleep over biology diagrams and wake up with textbook pages stuck to her cheek. Dr. Fumilayo would find her that way some mornings and gently wake her. Miriam, you're pushing too hard. I can't stop, Ma. I can't waste your money. I can't fail. You won't fail, but you must rest. David needs a mother, not a corpse. But Miriam couldn't rest. The shame of Echo Bridge haunted her dreams. Jessica's voice calling her a witch echoed in her head. Richard's face, cold and merciless, pushing her out of the car, replayed every time she closed her eyes. The only thing that kept her going was David's smile. His first laugh, his first word, Mama.
When JAMA results came out, she was at the clinic bathing David. Dr. Fumilayo burst into the room, her phone in her hand, screaming, 310! Miriam, you scored 310! Miriam dropped the soap. What? 310! You are going to medical school! You are going to loot! They cried together, holding each other and David, who didn't understand but laughed anyway because the women he loved were happy. Medical school was a different kind of hell. Miriam was 25 when she started. The other students were 19, 20. They had parents who paid their fees. They had cars. They had time to socialize. Miriam had David, a part-time job at the clinic, and textbooks she bought second-hand from Yoba Market. The first day of anatomy class, the professor looked at her, the oldest student in the room, and said, Madam, are you sure you're in the right place? The class laughed. Yes, sir, Miriam said quietly. I'm in the right place. We'll see, he said dismissively. She scored the highest on the first anatomy exam, and the second, and the third. The professor stopped making jokes, but the other students didn't stop. She's a night reader, they whispered. She probably uses jazz. That's why she's so old and just starting. One girl, Chiamaka, was particularly cruel. She came from old money. Her father was a senator. She made it her mission to make Miriam's life miserable. Where's your baby daddy? Chiamaka asked loudly one day in the library. Oh, let me guess. He ran away because you tried to trap him with a bastard. Miriam's pen stopped. She looked up slowly. Her voice was calm, cold. Chiamaka, I have been called a witch, a thief, and a dog. I have eaten shame like rice. Your words are just noise to me. So please shut up. Some of us are trying to study. The library went silent. Chiamaka's face burned red. She never spoke to Miriam again. But there was one student who became Miriam's friend. Tunde, a quiet boy from Ibadan whose mother sold tomatoes to pay his fees. He understood her struggle. You are the strongest person I know, Tunde told her one day as they studied in the cadaver lab. You have a son, you work, you study, and you are top of the class. How? Miriam looked at the skeleton they were labeling. I have something to prove. To him, to my son, to God, to myself. She paused. And to the man who left me on that bridge. You want revenge? No, Miriam said quietly. I want justice. There's a difference. The years blurred. 3rd year, 4th year. David was in primary school now, a bright, happy boy who loved science. Dr. Fumilayo, now Grandma Fomi to David after school, while Miriam was in the hospital for clinical rotations. In her 5th year, Miriam chose her specialty, toxicology. Dr. Fumilayo understood immediately. You are preparing, she said. Yes, Miriam replied. I need to understand poison, how it works, how to detect it, how to treat it, and why it's used, Dr. Fumilayo added quietly. Miriam said nothing. They both knew. Meanwhile, in the gleaming towers of Lekki and Victoria Island, Richard Cole's empire was growing. His face was on billboards. His company, Cole Energy, was worth billions. He and Jessica were the power couple of Lagos society. Their pictures were in every magazine.
Richard, now in his late 40s, was tired. Tired of Jessica's spending, tired of her cruelty, tired of her coldness. They hadn't shared a bed in 5 years. The house was a mausoleum of expensive things and dead love. Jessica, for her part, had found comfort elsewhere. His name was Ibrahim, a Lebanese businessman with construction contracts all over Lagos. He was younger, richer, and most importantly, he promised her the one thing Richard never did: freedom. Leave him, Ibrahim whispered as they lay in a hotel suite in Eco Atlantic. Divorce him, marry me, I'll give you everything. It's not that simple, Jessica said, trailing her finger across his chest. We have no prenup. If I divorce him, I get half. But if he dies, she smiled, I get it all. Ibrahim raised an eyebrow. What are you saying? I'm saying, Jessica purred, that Richard is not a healthy man. Stress, bad heart, these things happen. She didn't say it explicitly, but the seed was planted. Richard, oblivious, was dealing with his own crisis. His company was under investigation for tax fraud. He was betraying business partners left and right, just like he'd done 20 years ago to Dr. Fumilayo's husband. But this time, the stakes were higher. He was making enemies. One evening, he came home to find Jessica in a particularly good mood. Darling, I made you something special, she said, handing him a cup of green tea. Your favorite for your stress. He looked at her, suspicious. She had never made him tea before, but he was exhausted. He drank it. Thank you, he said, surprised by her kindness. Jessica smiled. Of course, my love. I'll make it for you every evening. You work so hard. She did. Every evening for 3 months, she made him tea. Special tea. With a few drops of something from a small dark vial she bought from a herbalist in Badagry. The herbalist promised it was untraceable, slow-acting, would look like liver failure. Richard started feeling sick, weak, nauseous. He went to his private doctor, who ran tests. Your liver enzymes are elevated, Mr. Cole. Stress probably, or alcohol. Cut back on drinking. But Richard barely drank. He was confused, but he trusted his wife. She was taking care of him, wasn't she? In her final year of medical school, Miriam was excelling. She was published in a toxicology journal. She was offered a residency at LUTH. Dr. Fumilayo's dream was coming true. On the day of her graduation, Miriam stood in her white coat, David beside her in a tiny suit, and Dr. Fumilayo weeping with joy. I'm so proud of you, the older woman said. Taiwo would be proud. I'm doing this for her too, Ma, for every woman who didn't get a second chance. After graduation, Dr. Miriam Adams was offered a position as head of toxicology at St. Nicholas Hospital, a prestigious private hospital on the island. The pay was excellent. The position was powerful. She accepted. Dr. Fumilayo looked at her. This is it, isn't it? You are going back into their world. Yes, Miriam said. I'm ready. 6 months into her new position, Miriam had settled into her new life. She had moved to a clean 3-bedroom flat in Sulurele with David, now 10 years old and thriving. Dr. Fumilayo visited often, now semi-retired. One Tuesday morning, Miriam was reviewing patient charts when her phone rang. It was Dr. Okoye, the hospital administrator. Dr. Adams, we have an emergency. VIP patient, acute liver failure, toxicology unclear. I need you in the executive ward immediately. On my way, Miriam said, grabbing her coat. She walked into the private ward and stopped. The man in the bed, pale, sweating, hooked to monitors, was Richard Cole. Her heart stopped. Then it started again, pounding like a war drum.
Richard's eyes were closed. Jessica was there, draped in designer clothes, fake tears streaming down her face. Save him, Jessica was wailing to Dr. Okoye. I'll pay anything, fly in a doctor from Germany. Dr. Okoye turned. Mrs. Cole, please. Dr. Adams is the best toxicologist in Lagos. If anyone can save him, she can. Jessica turned. Her eyes landed on Miriam. For a moment, Jessica's face went blank. She squinted. Something flickered in her eyes. Recognition? No. Impossible. This was a doctor, not a maid. Miriam walked past her without a word and went straight to the patient. She checked his vitals, his pupils, his oxygen levels. Then Richard opened his eyes. He looked at her face, really looked. His eyes widened. The heart monitor started beeping faster. Beep, 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 beep. You, he whispered, his voice a dry rasp. It's you. Jessica stopped crying. What? What did he say? She looked at Miriam, really looked this time. Her face went white. No, it can't be. Mr. Cole, I am Dr. Adams. I'll be handling your case. Jessica grabbed Dr. Okoye's arm. No, get her out. She's what, Mrs. Cole? Dr. Okoye asked, confused. Jessica's mouth opened and closed. She couldn't say it. She couldn't say, she's the maid I tortured 10 years ago, not without exposing herself. Miriam clipped the oximeter to Richard's finger. I'll need his full medical history, and I need to know everything he's ingested in the last 6 months. Richard just stared at her, his face a mix of terror and disbelief. Miriam, he whispered again. I am Dr. Adams, she repeated firmly. She was in control. For 48 hours, Miriam worked. She ran every test, drew blood, analyzed samples. She was a professional. Her oath was to save lives, even his. But she was also watching, observing. Jessica was too perfect, her grief too loud, too performed. And there was something else. Every time Miriam left the room, Jessica would rush to Richard's bedside with a flask. Darling, your special green tea, the one that helps you relax. Miriam intercepted her on the third attempt. Mrs. Cole, hospital protocol, no outside food or drinks for toxicology patients. Jessica's eyes flashed with pure hatred. Who do you think you are? I am his wife. And I am his doctor, Miriam replied calmly. I'll need to test anything you give him. She took the flask. Jessica's face went pale. That's ridiculous. It's just tea. Then testing it should be no problem, Miriam said, her voice steady. She sent the flask to the lab. The results came back 2 hours later. Miriam stared at the report, her hands shaking. Aconitum, wolf's bane, a slow-acting poison that mimics liver disease, untraceable unless you knew what to look for. Miriam knew exactly what to look for. She'd spent 2 years studying it. She called Dr. Okoye. We need to install a camera in Mr. Cole's room. Standard procedure for unclear toxicology cases where poisoning is suspected. Poisoning? Dr. Okoye's eyes widened. You think someone is poisoning him? I know someone is, Miriam said, handing him the lab report. The camera was installed that evening.
The next night, Miriam sat in the security office with Dr. Okoye and 2 hospital guards, watching the live feed. 11:47 p.m., Jessica entered the room. She looked around carefully. She thought she was alone. She pulled a small dark vial from her designer handbag. She added 3 drops to his water jug on the bedside table. Then she moved to his IV stand. She checked the door again. Then she carefully injected 5 drops into his IV bag. She wiped the vial clean with a cloth and slipped it back into her bag. Dr. Okoye gasped, Jesus Christ, she's killing him. Miriam just saved the video file to 3 different locations. Call the police and get me a large monitor. We're going to have a family meeting. The next morning, a large TV was wheeled into Richard's room. Richard was awake, weak, confused. Jessica was called in,
told there was an important medical update. She swept in, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Is he okay? My poor husband. He will be, Mrs. Cole, Miriam said, standing by the TV screen. No thanks to you. Jessica's face changed. Her mask slipped. What are you talking about? You hate him, don't you? Miriam said quietly. 10 years ago, you called me village trash. You made me kneel on marble floors. You locked me in a generator shed. You called me a witch. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were fire. But you were the poisonous one all along, weren't you, Jessica? Jessica's face went red. How dare you? Richard, are you going to let this nothing speak to me this way? Richard looked confused, weak. Dr. Adams, what is this? This, Miriam said, pressing play on the remote, is the truth. The screen came to life. The footage was clear. Jessica looking around, the vial, the water, the IV bag, her wiping the evidence. The room went silent. Richard stopped breathing. He watched his wife poison him. Then he turned his head and looked at her. His face crumbled. Jessica lunged, not at the screen, but at Miriam. You did this. You framed me. This is fake. She's the witch, the one from 10 years ago. Richard, tell them she's just a maid, a nothing. Tell them. Richard just wept, soft, broken sobs. Why, Jessica? Why? Because you're weak. You were always weak. You couldn't even get rid of a simple maid. I've given you 10 years of my life. I earned that money. You should have died on that bridge. The words hung in the air. 2 police officers already stationed outside by Dr. Okoye stepped into the room. Mrs. Jessica Cole, you are under arrest for the attempted murder of your husband. The handcuffs clicked on. She was dragged out screaming, thrashing. You regret this, all of you. Ibrahim will save me. He'll get me out. A nurse filming through the door window captured everything. The video was on Instagram within minutes. Linda Ikeji's blog within the hour. By evening, it was everywhere. Lagos socialite poisoned billionaire husband. Jessica Cole caught on camera. From Lekki to jail, the fall of Jessica Cole. Richard sat in his hospital bed, a ruined man, watching his life collapse on social media. Miriam just stood there. She felt no joy, no victory, just peace and something else. A week later, Richard was stable enough for visitors. Miriam came in one last time to sign his discharge papers. The room was silent except for the hum of monitors. He looked up at her, his face gray and old. Miriam, Dr. Adams, I don't know what to say.
Don't, she said, her voice soft but firm. It's done. I'm sorry, he whispered, tears rolling down his face. For Echo Bridge, for the baby, for everything. I was a coward. Yes, you were, she said, signing the discharge form. I didn't save you for you, Mr. Cole. I saved you because I'm a doctor. That's my oath. But I'm glad the truth came out. God's timing is perfect. She set the clipboard down. Your wife is in custody. Your assets are frozen. Your company is under investigation. You've lost everything. She paused. Just like I did 10 years ago. He nodded, weeping silently. My son, David, he has a school play today. He's 10 years old. He wants to be a doctor like his mother. He doesn't know who his father is, and he never will. Richard's face crumpled. I have a son? No, Miriam said firmly. You don't. You gave up that right on Echo Bridge. David has a mother who loves him, a grandmother who raised him, a God who protected him. He doesn't need you. She walked to the door, then stopped. She turned back. You know what's funny? You tried to erase me. Jessica tried to break me, but God used every humiliation, every scar, every tear
to build something you could never destroy, my purpose. I'm sorry, he whispered again. I forgive you, Miriam said, and she meant it. Not for you, for me, so I can finally be free. She walked out of the room and didn't look back. 6 months later, a green Toyota Camry drove through the gates of a quiet, clean school in Surulere. Dr. Miriam Adams was at the wheel, wearing a simple, elegant Ankara dress. In the passenger seat, Dr. Fumiloyo smiled, now officially Grandma Fumi. In the back, David, a bright-eyed 10-year-old, was chattering about his science project on medicinal plants. Mommy, Grandma, you have to see my project. Teacher said it's the best in the class. We'll be there, my love, Miriam said, smiling. She parked the car and turned to him. Have a wonderful day. Be brilliant. I will. He kissed them both, grabbed his backpack, and ran into the school. Miriam watched him go. A peace settled over her face that was 10 years in the making. She wasn't a billionaire. She didn't live in Lekki, but she lived in a clean, comfortable home. She had a career that saved lives. She had a son who was her pride. She had a mother figure who loved her. She was whole. Dr. Fumiloyo reached over and squeezed her hand. You did it. We did it, Ma, Miriam corrected. I couldn't have done it without you. God did it, the older woman said. We were just obedient. As for Richard, he survived, but his life was destroyed. His company collapsed under the weight of scandal. His health was permanently damaged. His name became a cautionary tale. He lived alone in a small flat in Ikeja, a shadow of his former self. Jessica was convicted. Her trial was a media circus. Her lover, Ibrahim, vanished the moment the arrest happened. She was sentenced to 20 years. Her face, once on magazine covers, was now a mugshot. Her name became a warning. Don't be like Jessica Cole. That evening, Miriam sat on her balcony, a cup of tea in her hands, watching the Lagos sunset. David was inside doing homework. Dr. Fumiloyo had just left. Her phone buzzed. A message from Tunde, her old medical school friend, now a surgeon in Abuja. Saw the video. I always knew you were a warrior. Proud of you. She smiled and replied, We are all warriors. We just fight different battles. She looked at the scar on her palm, the one from Eko Bridge. She used to hide it. Now she saw it differently. It was a reminder, not of her pain, but of her survival.
She closed her eyes and said a prayer. Thank you, Father, for the pain that had purpose, for the helpers you sent, for turning my test into my testimony, for making me a doctor so I could heal others and expose evil. Thank you for justice. Thank you for David. Thank you for peace. She opened her eyes. Somewhere in Lagos State, a young girl was being abused by her employers. Somewhere, a woman was being pushed out of a car. Somewhere, someone was praying the same prayer Miriam prayed 10 years ago. This story was for them. If you are on your Eko Bridge moment right now, if you have been pushed out, abandoned, and left for dead, your prayer is not bouncing back. Help is coming. Your 10-year story is just beginning. You will tell your testimony. Just hold on. If you are watching others suffer, don't be silent. Don't be the witness in the hallway. You might be the helper someone prayed for. If you are the one doing the hurting, your time is coming. The camera is always rolling. No designer bag can hide a wicked heart. God sees everything,
and he settles all accounts. The end. Sometimes, God will let a wicked person build an entire palace of lies, brick by brick, just so that when it finally collapses, everybody will see clearly who they really were. Some bridges are not meant for cars and traffic, but for transformation. The place where the version of you that people try to kill is buried, and the version of you God intended quietly rises. In the end, it's not who poisoned you, mocked you, or left you on the road that defines your life story. It's who you became after they walked away. If this story touched something in you, don't just scroll past it. Hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and share this with one friend or family group chat so you all have one more thing to argue about, cry over, and secretly reflect on later. Your share might be the Echo Bridge moment somebody out there has been praying for.